Hi, Sarah. Is this doing it? Yeah. All right. How's it going tonight? Are we all excited to break our streak of days without Yuri vampirism? I don't know if we're gonna do it tonight. But like, look at that number, 5,434 days. That streak's about to collapse any moment. I cannot tell that, Sarah. I am just assuming that I am broadcasting to thousands of people right now. As is custom, I will go ahead and let the thingy loop one time, and then we can go ahead and resume where we were last time.
見知らぬ人々、見知らぬものとの出会いが大好きで、高い天井で育てば背が伸びるというように、世界を広く持つことが人を大きくするのだと。そして高校2年の夏休み、私も遠くへ旅に出る。部活の合宿なのだけれど、これも旅には違いない。電車と車を乗り継いで、私たちは南の海へ。剣と道着をカバンに詰めて、鬼ヶ島を望む岬の山門へ。そこで私が出会うのは、我が部を支える内女の子。旅先で知る新たな顔も、出会いといえば出会いなのかも。相沢康美。ここよりさらに南から来た目的不明の先住者。ちょっと苦手かもしれない。キアン右は。
Thank you, Bismuth.
剣を携えて、神増島へと向かう極意の剣気。
And how are you doing this morning in your
空
time,
の木に
Bismuth?
咲く白の中、ひときわ異彩に咲き生える枯れずの赤い椿にも似た琥珀。そして私がたどり着いた夜、互いに惹かれ合うように波に運ばれやってきた少女。波。投げ入れられた6つの
Well, you were in the right place for
まだ見ぬ絵巻を織り上げる。
losing marbles, going out of your skull, screaming into the night.
水面を乱す定めの巡り。瑠璃の都にまどろむ竜の
Let's go ahead
嵐に
and
私は抗う。無限の波はわだつみの鼓動。
get started. Alright, so continuing from last time. The section is called The Girl Who Comes Adrift. So, just in general, you know, the podcast's track record of young girls unknown to everyone in the cast who wash ashore in the middle of the night on a mysterious island where something weird and possibly murderous is happening. to be faves. Yeah. So so basically, to catch us up on last time, our quick summary is last time we went out and Shoko went looking for Migiwa because, well, okay, first, a lot of things happened at dinner, and there were a lot of discussions about different sects of Buddhism and their relationship to food and alcohol. And that is very thematically important, but I am going to skip over it for now because I cannot encapsulate that really succinctly or very well. Basically, after dinner, everyone started to settle down, and in the middle of the night, Shoko wakes up and realizes that Migiwa is gone. She can't just let this pass because Migiwa is so suspicious. You know, and that's the only reason that she's so suspicious. So everyone decided that, well, yeah. Shoko's like, damn, Migiwa, her athleticism and androgyny is so suspicious. Anyway, we all made a vote and went to the mountains first, where we met my favorite character, Kohaku, who is like a short king, possibly hundreds of years old, possibly the spirit of the ever-blooming Tsubaki. We learned a lot about this tree called the ever-blooming Tsubaki, allegedly a single red Tsubaki tree in the depth of the forest that not only doesn't wilt, but has continuously bloomed for time immemorial. That was spooky. I mean, not for us. Like, for us, that was like the peak highlight of the game so far. It's definitely been my favorite moment so far. But for Shoko, she was rattled. So she decided that she would go continue. Well, we decided for her that she would go search the beach. And she found Migiwa there. Fishing. As most gay romance games need fishing, I think. And so we talked with her for a little while there, and especially talked with her about swords. Just remember that it's about swords. It'll come up, maybe, at some point. And now we are finally in the middle of the night, like 4 a.m. or so, deciding to go back, figure out how to get back to sleep. Except we can't because, look, the lights are on! The temple should be lights out by now, but the lights are still on. I was careful not to step on the nest next to the door. I'm not sure what nest she's talking about. Is it because I went out at night? The curfew's lax here because it's a Buddhist temple, I think. So we didn't have an explicit ban on going out at night. But as the club's head, it's hard to explain myself to the other members if I'm like this on the first day of group training. Oh, yes, that's right, Biss. You haven't seen this. I don't know that they had a copy editor. I think that they took the translation and they just put it directly into the code and shipped it. Maybe not, but it does take some adjustment. We are doing our best 2008 style. Also, I sometimes will need to take a sip to replenish the strength of my voice of a particular product that I'm drinking right now. In case you're wondering. When I returned to the side building of the temple, I went to the room with the light on. Hello, Vector! Welcome. You have just caught us at the start here. So, nothing much has happened since the last time you remember, so we are just getting back to the temple. As far as I could remember, there's nobody assigned to this room on the side of the temple, so it should be vacant. However, I could see the light in the door shining through the paper door and projecting what was happening inside the room, like a shadow puppet play. It was clear that someone was inside. There was one shadow with a distinct head shape and a sturdy figure, which must be Yukai-san. If he were the only one in the room, he might be attending to private matters, but I could also see the shadows of several other people beside him.
困りましたね、鈴木さん。
And they seemed to be discussing something. I thought it would be better to check with them to see what had happened. After I greeted everyone, I slid the paper door open. Yukai, who sat closest to the door, turned to look at me.
Oh, 部長さん。
The monk's deeply scrunched forehead relaxed a little, and he sat up and moved to the side to make space for me. It seemed that he had been sleeping since he wasn't wearing his modified Sumizome Goromo, but a cool white hitoi. There was a set of bedding laid out in the room. Was someone sick? Is it Yasumi?
幼いさん、今までどこに？右はキアンさんの姿が見当たらなかったので、外に探しに出てました。そう。翔子先輩、そんなことしてたんだ。
Look how sad this Yasumi is. She looks like a wet cat. Okay. Thank you, Bismuth. The look in the captain's eyes that accused her of being I'm gonna have to rewrite that sentence. The look in her eyes accusing me, her captain, of being unreliable made me a little bit uneasy. From Yasumi's point of view, it's not something that doesn't concern her.
それでキアンさんは見つかった？岩場の奥の方で釣り糸垂らしてました。まだしばらくは続けるみたいですね。大量そうでしたか？それが全然。わざわざこんな時間にあんな場所まで行ってるんだから、いい穴場でもあるかと思えば。
岩場の奥というと鬼の踏み石かね。
確かそんな名前だったような。
ああ、この時期のあの場所ではまず釣れぬよ。
そうなんですか？
そもそも鬼の踏み石のあたりは九郎様の禁足地。魚も恐れて近寄らんのだよ。
砂浜の方なら大量というか大物が取れたんですけど。大物？
マネージャーさんが寝つけずに砂浜に散歩に出たそうなんじゃよ。 そこでこの子を見つけたそうな。
The monk's gaze moved as he spoke. I followed his line of sight and looked behind him. My heart beat heavily. In front of me was a quilt. A young girl was tucked into it. Covered up to her shoulders, only her head showed out from under the blanket. The breath I swallowed shifted into a strange shape in my chest.
それにしてもこの娘さんは本当に運がいい。傷一つなく打ち上げられるなど、どんな奇跡。
She looked much younger than us. It's as if all color faded from her long, gently curling hair, and she looked extraordinary. She was so striking. It's not surprising that I looked at her in awe just because of that. But what I cared about more was the breath that was stuck in my chest was finally turned into words and exhaled with a raspy, incoherent tremble. Yasumi heard such a small gasp. I didn't think this because her face looked similar. Looking closer revealed a lot of subtle differences between the two of them anyway. Even so, her aura... The pale, foreign skin and hair reminded me of the face of the person I met in the Sala Forest, dressed in red.
Huh? 右輪は鬼って言ってたけど。鬼？翔子さん、鬼を見たんですか？見たっていうか、話したっていうか。空の森があるじゃない？右輪を探しに外に出て、そこでちょっと。
She had skin as pale as the safflower, and an eye as red as a drop of blood on a field of snow.
赤い衣が、和尚が聞かせてくれた床先の椿を思い出させてね。
This was the second time I described the incident. I can get it out a little bit more smoothly than I did the first time. However, because of the large audience and the need to answer questions, it took me a little bit longer than the first time to tell the whole story. Finally, I got to the part where she just disappeared like a gust of wind, and then I shut up.
なるほど。風とともに去りぬ。いかにも赤っぽい御人というわけじゃな。
Okay, I didn't think that he was actually referencing Gone with the Wind. But I did not catch what he was actually saying. That's a fascinating localization choice.
ももかちゃん、ヒントは名前で。名前？お？和尚さん、うまいこと言ったつもりですか
？The monk smiled slightly in triumph. It seemed that my personal experience was taken as a joke to warm up the atmosphere. Indeed, even as the one who personally experienced it, it was hard for me to cast it as anything but a hallucination that I saw when I was half asleep.
ザワッチどうしたの？別に。
ちはいっつもそういうこと言うんだから。言って問題ないことなら言える時に言っとかないとストレス溜まってそのうちハゲるよ。
どうしてわしの方は見なさるのかの。
それで休みどうしたの？
いえ、先輩のお話で気になることがあって。その先輩が会った人。
Yasumi put her left index finger on her left eyelid and pulled it down like she was making a face.
ずっと左目を閉じていたんですよね。
右輪はそれが鬼臭いって言ってたけど。
先生が話してくれた昔話の鬼も左目に弓矢の矢が刺さりましたよね。
浦島の鬼？じゃああの人に似てるこの子は一体。
And smash cut. I felt the sunlight on my eyelids, and it pulled my consciousness from the depths of my slumber. And I woke up. My ability to wake up right around the time I wanted to without an alarm clock was one of my specialties that I took pride in. Even though I had set an alarm on my cell phone as a safety measure, it was about 10 minutes before my alarm would have gone off. I could sleep for 10 more minutes. Although I still felt a little bit groggy, I struggled to hold back a yawn and turned off the alarm. I tightened my abdominal muscles and propped my upper body up on my hands. My vision turned... Ah, I see what they did there. Yes, my vision turned and I righted myself to sit upright. Looking over at the futons lined up around me, only the blankets were laying flat. In other words, I was the first one in the room to wake up. Everyone seemed to be soundly asleep in proper posture, and once again, I was reminded of that. I breathed using my diaphragm consciously in order to force oxygen to parts of my body and brain that weren't fully awake yet, while going over today's schedule in my head. After everyone was out of bed, whoever was in charge of the kitchen would need to prepare breakfast while everyone else was going for a morning run. This would be followed by a meal, then a moderate rest for digestion, followed by an afternoon exercise. If we were a normal sports club, we would probably have to change into jerseys, but we were in the Kendo Club. I got up from my futon and headed to my luggage that I placed it against the wall. I took out my padded undershirt, the dogi, and put it on. After that unexpected incident last night, I felt a little sympathetic towards the others and wondered if I should let anyone sleep in for a little bit longer. But with the passage of time, the weather would soon get hotter and it would become unsuitable for a morning jog. If we had to jog in summer, it would be best to run in the morning when it was still cool. Since training camp wasn't scheduled for intensive training, it scheduled everyone plenty of free time in the afternoon. For those who really need more sleep, they could get some more rest then. Once I finished changing, I checked the time again, opening the sliding doors so that the morning sun could fill the room. Probably the monk was the one who rang the bell. The Zen chimes from the bell and my command reverberated through the room. At the same time, I could hear alarms going off on people's cell phones. That shattered the morning peace. Some of us stirred in their futons, while others rubbed their eyes groggily, but some people were starting to get up, and someone in particular jumped up from their sheets right away.
Jeez! Osa senpai! Ohayou
Momoko
gozaimasu!
jump scare. I love Momoko jump scare. Had a feeling that she wouldn't be troubled by low blood pressure, and somehow I already saw this coming. Unsurprisingly, she was already bursting with energy early in the morning.
Ohayou, Momoko.
どっち朝のももちゃん
And that was what I expected from Yasumi. Being radically different from Momoko, Yasumi there we go. Sometimes in this game, the history that gets cut off, you can actually, or the text that gets cut off, you can find it in the history. Sometimes it's just not there. Anyhow, Yasumi is the type who struggles to get up in the morning. I was so set on with my predictions that I almost felt funny. But it wouldn't be polite if I were to blatantly laugh at the situation, so I fought to maintain my straight face. Shoko, you don't have a straight face.
おはようございます。おはよう。あやしろも朝弱かったっけ？
Ayashiro doesn't use her extra energy for frivolous things, so normally the flesh of her body wobbles around without strength and is not... What is that sentence now? That certainly was a string of words put together. I do not know what they were going for, but I saw it this morning.
そんなことはないと思うんですけど
I think basically the general sense of it is that usually, yes, Bismuth, exactly. Usually, she's very restrained and you do not see her titty bounce, but this morning saw the titty bounce. Her tone was a little ambiguous, and I'm not sure if she was being self-conscious. She frowned and put her hand over her mouth.
本気を言うならザワチも弱くはあっても悪くはないよ
そうなの？
If that comment came from her roommate who wakes up with her every day, it was probably the truth.
ザワチ今朝の体調はヒットポイントは緑に戻ってる
I'm sorry for the psychic damage that this localization is doing to all of the people in the chat, but especially you, Vector.
大丈夫おはようももちゃんおは
As if she couldn't bear the warmth of the blanket, she slowly burst out from underneath the covers.
翔子先輩と綾代先輩もおはようございますおはようございます
なんだか体調いまいちみたいね。
Why do they call it oven when you out the blanket out of the oven for the warm in? My eyes rested on Yasumi and Ayashiro as I noted.
二人揃ってどうしたの？
それが少し体がだるくて
休みも？
大丈夫です
To figure out whether she was telling the truth or not, I focused intently on her facial expressions and demeanor. I knew if I left Yasumi alone, she'd probably push herself unreasonably hard, and because of that, I had to see through her little white lies whenever she tried to act tough and put on a front. Our eyes often speak louder than our mouth. And that can be taken quite literally. One can, in fact, see a lie through the eye by looking straight into another person. My gaze stayed in Yasumi's eyes, and I could see that her pupils were wavering subtly. More importantly, her complexion also gave me a hint.
少し赤いわよ。やっぱり熱とかあるんじゃない？
ないですないです、大丈夫です。これぐらいは平熱ですから。
そう？
No one would be more familiar with her frail health than Yasumi herself. She is giving the Yuri eyes. Yasumi's, like, if you couldn't tell Yasumi was one of the romance options, like, just look at her sprites in these scenes. She learned every trick possible to get herself out of such situations. But I do want to follow up with her and make sure she's alright insofar as I can.
あやしろの方はどうなの？まだ寝とく？
さすがに寝つくほど具合が悪いわけじゃないんですけど。
けど何か心当たりでもあるわけ？
Once again, tonight's stream brought to you, not sponsored, but brought to you in spirit by I'm not actually sure if, like, they'll ban me on Twitch for saying that word, so I'm just, playing it by ear.
それが大変言いにくいことなんですけど。
Yes. Shiro, who'd thrown out that quote, looked around at the group and said it with a tone of disbelief. Oh. It's Dyke beer. And then she said something like that.
夕べの騒ぎの後、私はすぐに寝ついてしまい、それからどれぐらい経ってからのことかはわからないんですが、まだ暗いうちだったと思うんですけど、変な感じがして目が覚めたんです。
Ah, this music again.
そうしたら、体の上に誰かが乗っていたというか、
いたずらの可能性は？
それはないと思います。実際に重さを感じたわけじゃないですし、天井とか透けて見えてた気がしますし。
And that's what she said.
髪の長い女の子の幽霊か。
幽霊ですか。
Do you know, I think that if Sadako-chan was in this game, it would be messier, but better.
補佐先輩はそういうの信じない派ですか？
今まであんまり縁がなかったから。
Shoko, do you realize what you're saying? You literally last night were telling everybody that you saw, like, the spirit of a Tsubaki tree who you also think might have been a demon ox from hundreds of years ago. Shoko's just like, no, you need to have at least 12 encounters with supernatural creatures before you can really feel firm about what it's like. If you don't believe in it at all, you won't feel scared, so I think I'm not one of those who don't believe. Even so, The ghost of a woman with long hair. Not to say that the question of belief or disbelief is without merit.
怪しいといえば
Ah, here we go, here we go. Time to vote. Do you think that the mysterious ghost person that Ayashiro saw at night was the girl by the sea? Or thank you for your firm and needed statements, Bismuth, but yes, so cast your votes. Do you think that it was Kohaku who we met in the forest, or do you think that it's the girl with the white hair who we saw, you know, briefly last night? She was fished up from the sea. I'm going to take that as a forest vote, Bismuth. The person I met in the Sala Forest last night. The one who disappeared after leaving the impression of a golden glow before me. Yes, Sarah, tell us what you really think. That person's white hair would have been very long if it had been spread out.
Shoko-senpai?
Sleeping Girl is sus, and as we've also determined in this game, amount of sus is directly proportionate to amount of gay.
どうしたんですか？まさか犯人の目星がついたとか？そんなわけじゃ。
I was as startled as if I'd been told I was a prisoner. I used my hands to cool my face, which was suddenly getting hot, while also covering my eyes. Well, covering my face. Probably she's covering her cheeks because she's blushing. Momoko, with an exaggerated shrug, turned around and walked down the corridor. Is there someone else here like that? This CG. In the past, people believed in spirits and spirits of speech, so the classical Aoi-sensei should be very well informed about spirits and ghosts. Momoko shrugged helplessly again as she looked into the groups with puzzled expressions and tilted heads. This beautiful, perfect sprite. This is Shoshinji, the puja of the execution of the Danka, where the monk Yukai lives, the ancient temple of Unasaka. Went to the monk to talk about this matter, and a woman's voice came from the great wide room. I thought it was Aoi-sensei and the monk, but when I went to look, I found that it was an old TV broadcasting the news. The monk nodded as he watched the weather report. Might be what he did every day. At the sound of a familiar name, everybody looked to the TV.
せがあります。雨漏りなどに備え、住居の修繕や非常用品の準備は数日中のうちに済ませておくと良いでしょう。
You mean that we're on this island for a summer vacation trip and there's a big storm coming? Momoko noticed the same thing as I did, and she raised her voice and tugged on Yasumi's sleeve.
ザワッチザワッチ、なんかテレビの人が変。え？確かに少し変でしたよ。何か変だった？当然。なんで兆候なしにもかかわらず台風の備えみたいなことしなきゃいけないわけよ。
Yasumi opened her mouth in a daze and then lowered her head to hide her expression. There's nothing to be ashamed of or depressed about. Yasumi, who's not particularly good at mornings, probably hadn't started spinning the wheels in her head yet.
みんな、おはよう。
おはようございます。
鈴木さんもおはようございます。
花子さんもよく眠れたようで何よりですな。
先生、なんだか天気が怪しいらしいですよ。
あら？出発前の予報だとずっといいお天気が続くって言ってたのに。
Oh no. Since I didn't see any signs, I think it was just an ordinary forecast.
困りましたね。ひどい雨にならないといいんですけど。
Meaning that it probably is just an ordinary rainstorm and probably not a proper typhoon. But you know, like, we'll see about that. Aoi-sensei squinted as she looked into the sunlit windows, which showed no sign of that.
誰か裏の山に登ったりしたのかしら。
I thought she was talking about me, so the left side of my chest suddenly felt cold. Last night, I was in that place.
葵先生、それは何ですか？
No, Vector! No, come back.
ああ、別に気にするほどのこ
We'll
とじゃ
have
な
the
いわよ。
VOD for you, but
単なる
still,
ジンクスみたいなものだから。
come back. Come back. Aoi-sensei began by saying that because it's a custom that's centered on the northern areas of Aomori and Akita, it might not be applicable to Unasaka, which is further in the south and has very different conditions. But then she continued to speak. Yes, we will let you know. I will get you a summary when we start next time. Please rest well, Vector, and feel good. Feel better. Is that a heart? Is that, I can't. There.
Key たちまち風が吹きすさび、ざんざん降りの大雨に海が荒れると言われています。
やれやれ、ヒステリックな神様ですね。
Momoko, don't do a misogyny. To this irrelevant reply, the teacher only had a subtle, bitter smile.
ある土地ではどんな時でも入山不可の完全な禁足地だったり、またある土地では秋の収穫の後にはみんなで登って詣でてからマグサになるキズハを買ったり、さらにまた別の土地ではよそ者や旅人が登ると暴風雨になるので絶対に登らせてはいけないと伝わっ 椿の木は防風林として植えられたりするから荒らすと被害が大きくなるぞって、そのあたりとも結びつくのかしら。でもこちらの山に咲いてるのは椿は椿でも夏椿ですから関係なかったわね。
床先の椿は
床先の椿は夏椿ではなく春に咲くはずの椿ですよね。
Even though there's only one, there is still a Sabaki tree on the mountain that is an object of worship, and I stepped into its domain by mistake.
床先の椿は九郎様の妻とも言われる安姫様が植えたという言われを持つ九郎様とも縁深い木だし。
安姫様？
Alright, now we're getting into important lore. Aoi-sensei laughed bitterly at Yasumi, who felt Momoko's eyes and was in a panic.
秋田さん、相沢さんのことじゃないのよ。安姫様は浦島の昔話に出てくる旅の偉いビクニ様、つまるところの尼さんでね、島に流行っていた病を癒したり、その原因だった鬼の王の怨霊を釈伏したり、鬼退治の大将軍に勝他にも椿を植えて回ったり、若く見えるのに80歳を超えていたり、それは残の肉を食べたせいだったり。全国的に有名な八尾ビクニの伝説と重なる部分も多いわね。あ、八尾ビクニならぬ八尾ビクニ。八尾からの転化は難しいかもしれないけど、八尾から八尾ならありえるかも。
Just gonna leave this here. Incidentally, it's said that Yasuhime-sama came to Unosaka in pursuit of Kuro-sama and landed on Urashima. Therefore, Yasuhime-sama is also regarded as a messenger of Kuro-sama, and both of them are regarded as husband and wife gods.
まあそんな話とは関係なく、天気予報で言っておったように九郎様の祭りが近づくと鬼が荒れるというわけだ。少なくとも祭り当日は必ず荒れるの。わしが知っておる限りその確率は10割。つまりは100発100中じゃ。
The monk used his hands to make a pistol and made a firing motion, while Momoko moaned, pressed her chest with her hand, and pretended to be shot for some reason. What are these two even doing? The monk suavely blew the smoke off of what he imagined was swirling over his fingertips and continued.
ここまで外さずに必ず来ると、もはや地元の常識じゃな。島の者が揃って信心深いのにはこういった事実の積み重ねあってのことじゃろ
う。私みたいなよその人だと雨風を呼ぶ。
九郎様をお祭りすることで鬼の王のたたりを封じ込めていただくというのがこちらでは一般的な説じゃな。
にしても天候不順は100発100中ですか。
Sensei's face looked troubled as she crossed her arms. She seemed to have known this legend, but she didn't think that... but because it was a legend, she didn't take it to heart. However, it's not Aoi Sensei's fault that people generally believe in weather forecasts more than in legends.
鈴木さん、今年のお祭りっていつなんですか？
今日、明日、明後日。
Monk bent his fingers as he counted.
しあさってじゃな。いつから荒れるかは決まっておらんが、しあさってには百発百中じゃ。
Keeping this in mind, 3 days from now, which is also 4 days from their arrival at the island, the weather will get real bad.
それってどれぐらいの規模なんです？浦島だけが荒れるとか。
年によって規模はまちまちなんじゃが。
The difference in size is so great that the feeling of a 100% chance storm is purely superstition. However, it is better to be considered a superstition than to be certified as being hit by a very powerful storm every single year.
タイミング悪かったですよね。
先生の下調べが甘かったわ。そういう民間伝承こそ集めなくちゃいけなかったのに。
While this may be true for those who study, there's not really any need for consultants in a sports club to know the nuances of these sorts of regional folklore. Sensei exhaled a louder sigh, pushed down her glasses, and lifted up her head. Probably having changed her mood, Sensei's expression returned to that of a mentor.
こんなに遠くまで来てからでなんだけど、安全には変えられないと思うのよ。顧問として。つまり合宿を切り上げるべきだと。少なくとも天気が崩れる前に立っておきたいとは思うのよ。
Although it was our unilateral arrangement, the monk nodded in agreement.
荒れてからでは逆に足止めされる恐れもありますからな。
Alright, here's our next big decision point. Should we just stop the group training and go home? Or based on this small amount of information, can we possibly really make a decision like this? Okay, let's stop the group training. I hear one vote for stop. Do we have any votes for stay? Based on what, Sarah? Alright, listen now. Alright, 10 more seconds. Get all of your votes in. 10 more seconds. You can vote multiple times, by the way. Whoever just stacks the most on their side ends up winning. That's basically... Yeah. Wow. Alright. We're gonna stop the group training.
仕方ないですよね。
We took a surreptitious glance at each other and came to the conclusion that 仕方ないわよ. I said that with the worst accent I could. I hope it was cringe. Anyway, since not all the members of the club are here, we're going to have to listen to them and tell them about this later. I guess some members will feel that there's no way out and give up. From time immemorial, mankind has always concluded that there is no way to do something that cannot be done with all of our strength.
これ以上変なことっていうか大変なことに怒
I'm
ら
not
れ
really
て
sure
も
what
困る
they
し
meant by that.
それって幽霊のことですか？
幽霊？
はい。それで和尚に意見を伺いに。
I told the story of Ayashiro's sighting of the ghost from the beginning to the end.
桜井さんと相沢さん、体調悪いの？はい。私の方は見てないですし、いつもの体調不良だと思うんですけど。幽霊。幽霊ね。桜井さんは幽霊とか見る方だったの？いえ、初めて見たと思います。
Yurire.
だったらちょうどよかったかしら。
何がですか？
お寺に着いた自爆霊なら帰っちゃえば関係ないものね。
Earthbound spirit. No, I think you mean a mother spirit, or maybe a mother 3 spirit. It does make sense, but it always feels a little bit arbitrary or rash.
もし綾代か休みに何か取り付いてたら。
その時はその時。
It's really, really sloppy and irresponsible of her to say
で
that.
も帰ってからの方が何とかしようがあるのよ。鈴木さんはお祓いとかできないし。
天台や真言の密教僧ではありませんからな。
大丈夫大丈夫。最初の可愛い教え子たちを幽霊の餌食なんかにはさせないから。ここだけの話。なんと大学時代にお世話になったゼミの教授の友達は私の友達でもあるんですけど、すごい霊能者の知り合いなんだとか。
Yeah, Aoi Sensei definitely would be like referring people to Reagan Mob Psycho. A friend knows a psychic who sounds suspicious no matter what.
その子まだ小学生ぐらいの年齢なんだけど、海外の大学をスキップで卒業できちゃうような超天才で。
Oh, wait. I'll have to look that up. I wonder if that's an Akaito reference. I'll check in on that. The more I listen to her, the more suspicious she sounds, but whatever. The blue sky outside of the window is endless. The storm is still far away. As a result, we still ended our group training early and returned to our hometown. Bam, bam. The sound of the sleepers hitting the railroad tracks was very calming. We switched from the bus to the train and we were far away from Unasaka. No matter how strong the local storm was there, we'd entered a safe zone.
あの子どうなるのかしらね。
The girl that had drifted in from the sea and was discovered by Yasumi on the first night. The girl who simply kept
万事お任せ
sleeping
く
no
ださい
matter
っ
what.
て誘拐和尚が言ってたから心配ないとは思うんだけれど。
Even though the temple didn't have much money, the monk was a well-respected local. Besides, even if we stayed, there's almost nothing we could have done.
休みも気になるでしょ。
「 Yasumi sat next to me, sleeping soundly with her head leaning against my shoulder.
休みにも眠り病が移ったのかしら。眠り姫を起こすには王子様と儀式が必要ですよ。ボサ先輩、申し訳ないですけど、そのまま起こさずお願いできますでしょうか。
Momoko, who had the rare chance to be sitting away from Yasumi, asked this of me.
いいわよ、これぐらい。
Just as the scenery outside flowed peacefully on, time flew by without stopping as well. Gone with the time is the fleeting scenery. Well, I hope you're happy. That's the end of the game. Yay, we won! We won! We did it! Now.
カーソルを合わせると章台が表示されるわよ。
We didn't exactly clear the game. I know that you may not realize this, but there's actually more. So you see right here, this little bubble though. So, but you can also see what's fun is we haven't taken a good look at the flowchart. So you can see how there are like a lot of really substantial branching points that we are not hitting. But let's just go back. Let's just go back to where can we go back? Where can we go back? Can we not go here? Can we not? Are we gonna have to start over and
昔々のお話です。
ロード進行状態の把握は大事よね。
flowchart, how do we, Hmm.
用語値ロードするファイルを選んで。
Strange. You know, I had just really assumed that the game would keep track of the fact that we had gone through that part of the flowchart. But don't worry, we have an incredibly powerful skip function in this game. Remember all this that we saw earlier? We're gonna go through it real fast. Alright, and we said the person that I met in the forest. We're not changing that this time. Can't change any of these others. I'll learn from this. I'll do better next time. But, based on this information, I bend the fingers of my right hand to calculate. But what is Runa based on?
天候次第ではさらなる繰り上げも考えるというのが落としどころではないかと。
I wrap my middle finger and ring finger around the fingers of my left hand.
雨雲一つ見当たらないのに天候が崩れて危ないから帰れって言われても
Total Yuri
納得い
cell.
くものじゃないですし
It's not that we don't want to stop halfway, but we don't want to have to do it for unacceptable reasons. Although I'm not suspicious of the monk, the fact that he said it was dangerous to go back without any sign of ill weather really made me feel cheated. The decision to stop training shouldn't be based on such uncertain information. Even though our accommodations are cheap, we did spend quite a bit of time and money to get transportation to Unasaka.
まあそれはそうよね。自分で経験しないことには少しも実感。
つまり遊ぶなら今日明日中ってことですね
Of course, this isn't the view of all of us, so we're going to have to ask for everyone's opinion later.
ところで姫先輩の見た幽霊なんですけど
So, we have now,
師匠に意見を伺いに
we have now averted the early ending, and the game will continue.
クイックセーブしたわよ
Quick save.
その安姫様の
Oh,
語りだ
yes.
か
I told them all about Ayashiro's ghost sighting.
心当たりが他にない以上その線もあり得るのではお嬢様その安姫様甘さんですからツルツルかもしれませんが
As he stroked his head, the monk was lost in thought, and then looked at the long black hair of Ayashiro.
伝わっておる話によると年の頃は14、15歳つやつやとした黒髪を長く伸ば
髪の長い女の子ですね安姫様のたたりですか
If this was a curse, I would have probably been punished for entering the Sala Forest and seeing the ever-blooming Tsubaki's spirit.
それがなんで姫先輩に
It really is, exactly, why. But better to rest than to engage in useless thinking about this, and there's no point in trying to come up with an answer right now.
桃子が姫とか呼んでるから顔でも見ておこうと思ったとか桃子ちゃんのせいでしたか濡れ衣です
Even though she was wrong, Momoko wasn't discouraged.
では今晩あたりにでも確かめてみましょうどうやって幽霊って怖い話すると集まるって言うじゃないですか言うかしら聞いたことはありますけど
That is to say, trying to summon the spirits to see if they will actually appear.
要するに怖い話をみんなでしようと肝試しとかって合宿にはつきものじゃないですかそうだっけ去年も学校でやりましたけどね
Last year's training session at the school was also a test of courage, which took place in one of the rooms of the old school building. As one of the planners, my predecessor put a lot of effort into it. All sorts of things
と
happened.
ころで桃子肝試しをするのはいいんだけど綾代が見たって幽霊が実際出たらどうするの
Well, it's important to establish the facts. There's no point in actively allowing a snake in the bush to bite you with its poisonous fangs.
用心としてお嬢さんから九段の木刀を貸していただきます不毛打ちか
If that sword has the power that Yukai claims, then it is indeed reassuring to face ordinary apparitions. And I did think about it last night.
それはいいんだけどさはいもし幽霊が安姫様だったら 木刀の霊剣って通じないんじゃない？
She didn't seem to have thought of this. Momoko said that was a different story, while clenching her fist in a passionate speech.
大丈夫です。安宮様は味方です。まあ、いいけどね。
If Yasuhime-sama was on our side, then there wouldn't be any need to verify the curse. I asked Yasumi and Ayashiro, who were not feeling well, to help prepare breakfast during the morning practice. We shouted our generic cheer at appropriate intervals to raise our spirits as we jogged along the beach. Although some members have voiced their hopes of changing the cheer into something that's more fitting for a kendo club, others have opted to do away with the cheers entirely and just run in silence. Their opinions on this issue have been varied at best. But as for me, I don't really dislike this vibe. At least I wasn't as mean as the former captain who demanded members provide entertainment during training, such as, let's sing something while we run, or something ridiculous like that. And they should really be grateful. While it is true that singing while running would provide unexpected trainings for one's lungs and abdominal muscles, the fact that she would ask us to sing different songs whenever she got tired of the old ones, that was a bit out of line for me. Indeed, the sand is so fine and thick that it is difficult to lift the opposite side of the foot, and the impact is... Bit my tongue again. I need to get better about that. Momoko turned around to check on the others before she remarked, holding my breath and waiting for the opportunity to take advantage of the gap to score a point. When the opponent raised their hand, one of my surefire ways to win. Ah, okay. One of my surefire ways to win is to rely on a long breath and support it. That's important, perhaps. In terms of pure physical fitness, Momoko might in fact be ahead of everyone else in the club. Despite being a beginner who only started training in high school, she was already thought to be the club's next ace. I guess that's why other sports clubs such as volleyball were vying for her to join. The legacy of the next generation. Is it because I'm neither father nor mother, unsmiling and unlovable, inherited from my I'm not really sure what that sentence is about. I think what she means is that because she does not have a father or mother, has she inherited these traits from her grandfather? It's about time. I glanced at Yasumi's favorite stopwatch, which I've borrowed from her. Since we were running on a surface that was different from what we were used to, I couldn't quite tell how long we'd been running, but I think we've covered quite enough distance. Maybe it's because of the temperature going up, or because of the reflection of the sunlight on the beach, or because of the run. When I stopped running, though, the wind stopped and sweat gushed out from me like a dike. That's quite a description.
さて、
ずいぶん遠くに来てしまいましたね。
遠くって5キロぐらいよ。
あ、5キロは多いでしょう。普段そんなに走らないですよ。
他に大した練習する予定ないじゃない。
More importantly, cultivating lower body strength is fundamental as a part of all
気
physical
分とか悪い
activities.
人いる？
Some people complain of being tired and heard exhausted gasps, but nobody said that they were
じ
uncomfortable.
ゃあここからは各自のペースで。
迷子にはなりようのない場所ですよね。
After climbing the long, long stairs, our morning jog concluded as we reached the courtyard. Everyone was allowed to decide how long they would need to cool down, and then they split up.
やっぱり翔子さんと桃子ちゃんが先頭でしたね。翔子先輩、タオルです。
ありがとう。
桃ちゃんもおかえりなさい。うい。
Taking the towel from Yasumi's hand, Momoko suddenly looked up and said, I forgot to ask you something important.
ザワッチ、ご飯はできましたか？
Straight towards Yasumi.
うん。
No, I don't think she's straight towards Yasumi. I think she's gay towards Yasumi.
思ったより早く終わっちゃって。
じゃあ全員戻ってきたらすぐ朝食ね。
オサ先輩、ご飯も到着順ってわけには。
行くわけないでしょ。
Momoko was silent as her stomach protested on her behalf.
よし、ちょっと最後尾まで行ってお尻引っ張たいてきます。
With a flurry of her hakama pants, Momoko dashed to the courtyard and crossed the temple gate. She greeted the third member who came back and then vanished from the stairs.
まったく。
桃ちゃんは元気だな。
そうね。それで2人とも体調の方はどう？
はい、もうすっかり良くなりました。私も食事の後の練習には参加できそうです。
That smiling face has lost all of the feeling of unease from this
無
morning.
理はしないでよ。
はい。
If there's nothing wrong with these two people,
それであの子の方は？
without knowing her name or her circumstances, I can only really refer to the girl floating in the ocean vaguely.
古将様が方々に問い合わせてくださったんですけど、この近辺で船が転覆した子供が帰ってこないとかいう届けはどこにも出され。
この近辺ってあの島も？
The island was on the other side of the strait, Urashima. If I had to guess, I'd say that the island couldn't be more than 10 kilometers away from here, give or take. Although it's a dangerous body of water with strong currents and reefs, it wouldn't be impossible for an expert swimmer to cover that distance. In fact, according to the monk, as long as luck is on your side, even someone who's not adept at swimming could probably make it. They might get washed up on shore from that island alive.
あちらにはまだ連絡を取っていないそうなんですが、島の方ならしきたりを破って海に出たりはしないだろうと。
出ようとして出たわけじゃなくて、何かの事故の可能性は？
高波に飲まれたとか？
I nodded in agreement and prompted her to continue.
否定できませんけど、さすがにあれだけ目立つ子ですから。
なるほど。
A lot of rural townships have been struggling with the problem of rural flight. Urashima was no exception, given its modest population. If such a pretty girl lived on that island, rumor of her disappearance would no doubt reach here quickly.
前例がないわけじゃないそうなんですけど。
前例？
何年ぐらい前のことでしたっけ？ 8年です。そうでした。8年前の九郎様のお祭りの時期に生きてうな坂の浜辺に流れ着いた女の子がいたそうなんです。海は例年通りに荒れていたのに、その子には怪我もほとんどなかったそうで。ですけどその代わりに数日分だか数週間分だかの記憶をなくしていて、どうして自分がそこにいるのかもわから。
My heart froze at that moment, and it constricted and sent blood through my arteries. Although the blood continued to circulate through my body, it lost its warmth, causing my body to go cold. This was a feeling that I knew. I know. This feeling of being completely submerged in icy cold water. In contrast to my sinking consciousness, tiny bubbles began floating up. Most of the bubbles slipped by me, only a few burst after colliding with my body. In that fleeting moment, when those bubbles burst, scenes that were unbeknownst to me melted into my consciousness before spreading out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Countless bubbles collided and burst. Those bubbles brought fragments of visions into my wavering consciousness. When those visions connected and overlapped, I realized they had amalgamated into a complete picture. Something I shouldn't have known. No. It was something buried deep in the sea of my memory. Something I ought to pretend never have happened.
翔子さん？
My frozen heart began throbbing at a frantic pace as if it was trying to make up for lost time. It had warmed up, and the blood that coursed through my body once more while I tried to move my stiff facial muscles and winked.
翔子さん、急に顔色が。
大丈夫
ですけど、私たちも急に体調が悪くなったりしましたし。
本当に大丈夫だから。
I tried to sound as calm as I could with my still quivering lips. Some people believe that illness stems from psychosomatic clauses, and if my face had turned pale, it would have probably been due to psychological reasons in this case. I take one deep breath. It doesn't matter. There are things that I can do about this. So it doesn't matter. I'm fine. I don't have a problem.
ちょっと家に電話する用事を思い出したから、私は先に戻ってるわね。
I had to know the answer as quickly as I could, and every second counts. I hurried back to the room. After taking off my dogi and getting dressed, I took my mobile phone to the corridor. I'd like to skip the change of clothes, but the wet and cold inversions reminded me of the breathlessness I felt when I first had that vision. The blue world. Memories in the water. The openness of the atrium and the sunshine that warms my skin make me feel like I've slowed down a bit. Although it may just be a momentary feeling of reassurance, that feeling just now may also have been an illusion, so that I could feel balanced.
もしもし、おじいちゃん。
Hello, Lappy, hello! The response was uttered in a blunt manner, an extremely rude voice. Grandpa's always been a difficult man to get along with, and he felt comfortable being seen as a weird, stubborn old geezer. That was true to his character. In stark contrast, Grandma has no problem socializing with people, even strangers. Somehow, they got together and things just sort of evened out, resulting in a delicate balance between the two of them. I've had a nagging suspicion that I inherited more of my grandpa's demeanor rather than my grandma's side of things. If Akiko were still alive. If my mother had been at home. Incidentally, my grandpa's name was Osanai Jinosuke.
「忘れ物っていうか、物忘れっていうか。」
The memory that was buried deep in my mind had risen up to the
私、
surface.
昔夏姉さんと二人で旅行に行ったことあったよね。
First sister mention right here. It's a bad omen. It's a bad omen. I finished what I wanted to say and waited for his response, but all I got was radio silence. I guess the reason why Grandpa's "how annoying" sounded so far away was because he'd put down the
お
receiver.
じいちゃん？
Since my parents were always busy with work, I grew up being very attached to my grandma. I heard the click of a lighter from the other end of the line. Grandpa exhaled smoke and sighed.
ガキだから、そのまま鵜呑みにしちまって、そこに行きたいとか言い出しやがって。
うん。
Why would I forget something like that? How did I forget that? In order to stop grieving my grandmother's passing? Natsume-san went out of her way and took a long vacation so that she could take me to the south. I recall Natsume-san driving her turtle-esque car, and we went slowly around. We visited scenic sites and historic locations, along with various renowned and obscure dojos along the way. She deliberately went slow as we headed for the south. When we eventually arrived at a spot when we could simply When we had arrived at a spot that was as far south as we could have traveled by car without taking a boat, my heart was fully healed. But my memories after that remain vague at best. Although I have regained my memory and I know something big remains hidden in the recesses of the ocean. The waves on the surface were getting in my way. The depth of the ocean and the coldness of the water have hindered me from driving further to the bottom. But even so, there isn't a shred of doubt in my heart that something is still there at the bottom of that ocean. As vague as that sounds, I know something must have happened.
旅行先の海難事故で私だけが奇跡的に助かって夏姉さんが行方不明になって
Dramatic missing, sister. Important.
おじいちゃんそこがどこだか覚えてる？
そんな大事を忘れるほどボケちゃいねえよ。まあなんだ、因縁ってのはあるもんだよな。
Yes, Lappy, I'll be happy to catch you up on the plot. So, Lappy, last time, as you may remember, we ended up going and searching the woods for Migiwa, who'd vanished in the night, and we met that suspicious spirit of the Tsubaki tree. I lost my... Just dropped my Joy-Cons on the floor. Clumsy me. Anyway, and then we went back and we found that there was a mysterious girl with white hair found washed ashore, as is the case often in visual novels, and she wouldn't wake up. Yasumi and Ayashiro found her when they were out walking along the shore, and so they brought her back to the temple. Yes, that was about the same time while Migiwa was fishing. And then there was this strange ghost scare where Ayashiro woke in the middle of the night and swore that she saw a girl with long hair standing over her. Semi-transparent, like, definitely a sort of ghost, but we can't make anything of that right now. Then we heard the weather. The weather seems like it will turn bad in a couple days. And then we got our first bad ending, which is like, I think maybe the earliest ending you can get, which is, I guess it's really not a bad ending so much as just like an unsatisfying ending, where we just like, damn, the weather's gonna turn bad in a few days. Let's just go home. And so they just went home. But now we're back at it, and we've decided, okay, maybe we'll go home like one day early, but we're gonna keep going with the training camp. So we did some training. But while training, Shoko remembered that she has this vivid sensation of having almost drowned one day. So she calls her grandpa, which is what happens right now. And he basically walks her through the past of what happened back then, where when her grandma died. So Shoko's parents are dead. The game hasn't been super clear on that, but Shoko's parents are dead, and they have been for a long time. So she's been raised by her grandparents. When her grandma died, she was so upset for so long that her older sister decided to take her on a trip to go all the way down from, basically from Honshu down to Kyushu. And basically going as far as you can drive without taking a boat or a ferry. And it turns out that this island where their training is actually that place. This is as far as you can go by road without taking a boat or a ferry. And there was some sort of accident when they were here in the past during Shoko's childhood. And in that accident, Shoko fell into the sea and then washed ashore, having lost her memories of the previous couple weeks. Drop my Joy-Con again. Sorry about that. And her sister vanished. Not seen her since then. If we're lucky, we won't see her ever again. We're not lucky. I mean, it's not lucky. It's not lucky to not see her because she is maybe the hottest character in the game. I just don't want to do her route. Yeah, I'm debating on just like we'll figure that route out when we get to it. There's a lot of other content to deal with before then, though. Also, Shoko, your grandpa's kind of a dick. Basically, her grandpa now is blaming his dead wife for this incident because Shoko's grandma had told her about like legends about this island chain and this island and places in the South Islands and things like that. And this is what made Shoko really want to go here, both like in general and sort of like as a way to mourn her grandma. And so he's like, well, damn, she should have just told you about the moon or something so you couldn't get there. I remembered to myself and folded my cell phone when the call ended because she has a flip phone. My gaze traveled down from the mountain and it was drawn to the blue sea. My eyes glided across the water surface to the shadow of that island. That nostalgic feeling I felt when I first arrived here. It wasn't déjà vu. 8 years ago. It was a landscape I'd seen before.
へえ、なるほどね。
I was startled by a response I wasn't expecting after talking to myself for so long.
右は
Just as I thought, There was more to her than meets the eye. Excuse me, I hiccuped right at the time. No matter how engrossed I was in that phone call, there's no way someone could have snuck up on me so close without me realizing. I suddenly had this absurd idea that it was actually her who came to this temple to learn the Oni Taiji sword techniques.
Nani?
Seeing her large eyes up close startled me. Her gaze was unexpectedly tough, and it was something that people have said about me as well. Her expression changed and became much more mellow. Her eyes narrowed into just thin slits, and that concealed her pupils. It was something like a cat when it finds something interesting. Her eyes narrowed again, and she smiled and turned around in one smooth motion. Her footsteps were silent. She disappeared down the corridor with the footsteps like a cat. Momoko's eyes shone as she examined the breakfast on the table, checking for its contents, seeing everything from one end to the other, looking again, then looking around one more time, like when crossing the street, to make sure that she's left everything. The eyes of a meat-hungry beast look at the soft flesh of what is... Sorry, that line got away from me. The poor sheep that must have been sacrificed. Yasumi, who was receiving the heat of those eyes, slowly backed away as if she was feeling their intensity. Momoko moved closer and closer to Yasumi, and the distance between the two grew smaller and smaller. Sitting next to her, and therefore with no place to escape, Yasumi could only use the power of her words to keep Momoko at bay. So Lappy, they mentioned this last time. So, Yukai is a member of a Buddhist sect that is, like, broadly, they're not strict vegetarians, but he does keep to being vegetarian, but also, like, he's fine drinking beer. Mostly, though, they don't keep any meat or animal protein on hand, and Yasumi felt like it was, like, more respectful to just, like, make their meals such that the monk could also have them like his regular diet, I think. So basically this is one of, like, 12 different scenes we'll have of Momoko complaining about the fact that she's not getting any meat. Because Momoko likes to eat meat. Momoko countered with something that would have worked well for the manager responsible for managing the player's physical condition. If you just look at protein, miso, tofu, and natto are all soy-based products and should be enough to get quality protein. But this is a different dimension of nutritional value, and just like how tasty it is, the content seems to be important for the morale of the players. That said, Mingiwa hasn't returned yet. She said she was hungry and called me here, but then she said she had something to do. She told me to tell everyone to have breakfast first, and then she went off somewhere. Jeez.
ところで鈴木さん、
何ですかな花子さん。
浦島の九郎様の祭りの日には必ず嵐が当たるんですよね。
申したように百発百中じゃ。
でしたらそんな嵐の中で一体何をするんです？大雨に降られたら綿あめも花火も金魚すくいの声もいろいろまとめて台無しですよね。
うん。
Facing this most sensible doubt, the monk closed his
先
eyes.
生も知らないんですか？
普通に手に入るような資料には何も書かれてないのよ。
She waved her hands and swayed her body side to side, conveying the emotion that she could not help but feel, which is, of course, confusion. She seemed more like a student than a sensei. No, that's more of an attitude of an adult. More of an attitude of a child than of an adult.
よその方が島に入り込むことは難しいですしな。
It's a ritual of complete disconnection from the outside world, and everything is done internally during that time. The people who live on Unasaka know of the existence of the festival, but not really what it entails.
それで鈴木さん、何か聞いてません？
さて、何をしておるのかの。島でも特別な役目についておる者以外は、うちにこもって出てはならぬと。
Not only that, but the residents of Urashima, which is the island that they're on right now, don't know the details.
そういうしきたりらしいんじゃよ。
Seeing Aoi Sensei drop her shoulders, the monk smiled a little and said something.
長い歴史があるだけに、しきたりを破ったものについての話もちらほらと耳にせんでもないが。
Seeing the change in Sensei's expression, the monk set up his frame and frowned in a somewhat troubled manner.
そんなに期待されても大したことは話せませんぞ。伝え聞いておる限り、その大方が行方不明。
まあ、
何せ嵐が直撃ですからな。そんな時に外に出たら普通は大変なことになりますな。
Formal or not, those rules must be based on life
例外
circumstances.
中の例外なんじゃが、働き盛りの若者がそう白髪のやつ。その者も数日後にふらりと姿を消し、そのまま帰ってこなかったそうなんじゃがの。
Yes, Lappy, it is the beach that makes you old. That is exactly... You have solved it.
うわー、なんだか知りませんが怖ー。
Having your hair turn entirely white in one night is a classic part of this type of scary story. Or did he open the tametebako that he got from the Dragon Palace that he was told not to open? Like Urashima Taro.
知りたいわー、知りたいです。私、学術的好奇心を刺激されまくりです。
This time the monk thought for a few seconds before speaking.
まあ、大方はわからぬでもないのじゃが。江戸時代の寺受け制度のおかげじゃな。
He seems to have decided about the secret things that Urashima that have not been made public.
当時は浦島を含むこの辺りの住民は全て正信寺の檀家で、
今では見る影ないですね。
The monk nodded politely at Momoko's remark and continued.
一方、その辺りから明治の神仏分離令までの間、九郎様は同じ海難よけの神様であり、龍神でもあるコンピラ大権現とされておった。あちらにとっての幸いは、こちらの本尊が毘沙門天だったことにつきますな。いやはや、縁とは全く計り知れぬものですわい。毘沙門天は薬師十二神将のクビラ大将と同一とされており、そもそもクビラ大将とコンピラ様はどちらもインドでいうクンビーラですから。
Oh, Kumbira! Yeah! I never got her in Grand Blue Fantasy, but like... great character design.
つまりコンピラ様である九郎様を島の者が信心するのは、毘沙門天を拝んでおるうちの檀家的には問題ないということですな。同じですから。
なんという詭弁。
せめて方便と申しなされ。
The local droughts in this area are very confusing and difficult to understand, so this is probably the only way to take it. In short, at the time, even though superficially Bishamonten and Kurosama were the same, and faith in Kurosama was tacitly
とは
recognized.
いえ、さすがに因子邪教の類を認めることはできんのでな。
Because the Edo shogunate was watching,
九郎
there was
様
no
信仰
real
を
trouble.
続けたいのであれば、その一部始終を語って聞かせいと、当時の住職が取りまとめたものが。
古文書が残っているんですね。
Sensei asked that with a bright smile. The long introduction had ended, and the monk was about to get to the main topic.
まあ、簡単に説明するなら、鬼退治の大将軍が鬼の大将を倒したという神話の再現じゃな。
So, to summarize that last bit, because I know it might not be super clear, essentially what Yukai is saying is they're not really sure exactly what goes on at the festival, but he does know a little bit because in the Edo period, the Edo shogunate basically went around to all the sort of like smaller shrines and areas and was like, all right, listen, we'll let you have your local regional beliefs or shrine or local deity, but we need to know like what goes on in your festivals and rituals, and then we need to write them down and have a record of them. And so that was written down at that time in the Edo shogunate, and so Yukai has read the copy of what Unasaka Island basically like told the shogunate at the time they did during their festival. And now he is going on to explain that, yes, basically, it's a festival to reenact the legend of the defeat of the Oni by a human general, which is, of course, also the folklore that we saw on the bus ride in the very start of the game.
つまりは一種の里神楽ですね。
It's not a witch's dance, but a kagura, or, I think they mean, like, a type of ritual dance in this case, that's similar to a play, and it's common in the Chugoku district, mainly in Izumo, Shimane. Although its content is that of the great general cut off, is that the great general cut off the head of the Demon King, who was then transformed into a bull at the time, with a divine sword. The monk sighed and stroked his mustache.
生贄ですか。
ニエと言っても牛ですがな。
It's surprising, however, that Buddhism, which forbids the killing of gods, would acquiesce to the sacrifice of bulls. Urashima's Nakata carries out the consciousness of Kurosama, not the act of chopping the bull. Rather, the real bull was brought before the god, and its head was cut off.
殺牛祭神。
Aoi Sensei spoke in unfamiliar terms.
日本領域にもありますな。唐紙のたたりにより牛を殺して祭り、また北条の禅をうんちゃらという話だ。
なるほど。九郎様の祭儀を島に持ち込んだのが陰陽師なら、向こう風の儀式が混ざっていてもおかしくないですね。
She slides her right index finger over the palm of her left hand as if taking notes with her heart, then sits upright. If this was a faith that began in... I think by BC they do mean basically like before 0 AD. Before the Common Era, there should be no chance that Onmyoji could interfere.
昔話からの九郎様信仰は仏教が広まるにつれて一度完全に途絶えているのよ。
But then an Onmyoji brought it back.
ちなみにその陰陽師、白髪白石石眼だったらしいわよ。
Yes, this music is great. Also, this line, total throwaway.
ビジュアル系ですね。
The group laughed with relief at the thoughtlessness of Momoko's reaction. White hair, white skin, closed side of one eye. There was only a little bit of information, but I was able to form a picture in my head. The person I met in the Sala forest last night. That forest was said to have been planted by Yasuhime-sama, Kurosama's wife, the ever-blooming Tsubaki. The magical Tsubaki, which could dispel all evil spirits, took the form of an Onmyoji and spread the faith of the deserted Kurosama once again. In the absence of any other ideas or preconceptions, what someone sees with their own eyes is often... I'm not really sure what they mean by that.
細先輩？
A one-eyed Onmyoji. Yes, y'all didn't expect this high level of knowledge requirement about both Buddhism and Japanese history, and also the intricacies of local folklore in the Southern Islands, and anybody who knows me can probably figure out this is one reason why this game, like, absolute catnip to me when I was a child. Well, I mean, I say a child, I was in college, but, like, God, it was like 15 years ago. That's almost half my life. Anyway, we cleaned up after finishing breakfast and took a quick rest to let our stomachs digest. Then we changed backs into our dogi and assembled in the courtyard.
すっかりカラカラですよ。
We'd hung our sweat-drenched dogi in the eaves to dry in the shade while we ate breakfast, and they were completely dry. That was impressive for that tropical climate in the south. But I also knew it would soon become our enemy when we trained later. Breathing in the humid breeze, I looked up at the green
まず
sky.
は準備体操から。
っていうか、長先輩の組んだメニューってアップにとってる時間長すぎで。
ウォームアップは大切よ。柔軟とかしっかりやっとかないと怪我の元だからね。
The sleeves and the hakama of the dogi crossed the wind, and everyone moved their hands and feet. For any club activity, making sure that there's no one significantly injured while training is more important than becoming proficient in the training or activity. No matter how much we practice, if you get injured along the way, it'll all be for naught. If someone has to sit out practices due to an injury, it would take considerable effort to make up for that lost time. More importantly, one will be able to move better with control and precision after an adequate warm-up. Basically, Shoko is a nerd who gets really excited about, like, physical training regimens and figuring out exactly, like, what proportion of warm-up and stretches and, like, repetitions of and sets of activity. This is why she's the captain. I'm probably so verbose because of my grandfather, who's a doctor, and he had a great influence on me. The sun was shining at a slowly increasing height, and we soon began to sweat. The hakama is very hot when it touches the legs directly, and the almost black color absorbs the heat much more effectively. At times like this, it's nice to feel the coolness of the white hakama. Natsune-san is the opposite, with black colors on top and bottom. It's cool to have a quiet heart, as you would expect from an Narumi contestant. Some people would say this, but it's just that she doesn't say it out loud. I don't know why I feel so motivated when I think of how I used to practice with sweat, even though I was so hot.
じゃあ最後に2人で組んで柔軟。
Alright. It occurred to me. I did a quick count of everybody present and realized we had an odd number of people. Although I'm fine practicing alone, I looked around and there was Yasumi standing under the shade of the solid tree, next to Mikiwa's figure. Yesterday, she showed interest in the intensity and content of the practice at Seijo. It was a rare opportunity, so I invited Mikiwa to try it out.
君はあなたも混ざる？
But alas, it is 9:30. And so, we will see what happens next time when Mikiwa joins the practice. And, you know, I'm sure it goes completely platonically and heterosexually.
セーブはここよ。セーブするファイルは選んで。セーブするファイルは選んで。
Alright, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Please look forward to next week. Our vampirism counter is continuing to tick up. It can't keep ticking up forever. And good night. Yes. See you, everyone.